Season 9 of Night School is presented by the AQHA. Don't miss this weekend's Riadoso Futurity and Riadoso Derby. Keeneland Select. New players can earn a $150 sign-up bonus. Woodbine. Live racing all weekend at Woodbine and Woodbine Mohawk Park. Queen's Plate Day, June 29th. Remington Park. Thoroughbred racing returns August 23rd. And ExpressBet. Get 5 times reward points every Friday on the Stronach 5.
Horses have off days, and by looking at them before they actually get on the racetrack, you get an initial impression of which way they're leaning.
This is going to sound crazy, but for me, it's intellectual stimulation.
Class is now in session. It's time for Night School. Here are your hosts.
Welcome, everyone, to the spring semester finale of Night School, the National Online Fan Education Program, season number 9. We've got 20 lessons throughout the 2019 campaign. This is our 10th and the end of the spring session. Tonight, we'll talk about trifectas and your wagering. 3 deep in each race. We will return August 27th with 10 more lessons for a fall semester of Night School. But until then, I am joined by Brian W. Spencer of Horse Player Now. Brian, we're throwing up the 3 balls tonight, looking for some trifectas.
And this is just another wager that people can kind of put in their arsenal for when you've got the right kind of situations. We've talked a lot already this season about letting races dictate to you which pools maybe you should be jumping in, and the trifecta. Admittedly, not one of my really high volume pools, but I've had some success when I find the right kind of situations, really putting it into action, and I'm excited to talk about some of those strategies and some of the ways that you and I both approach this wager.
Well, the statute of limitations on the crime has run out, so I can tell you, I go back to my teenage years betting trifectas, and the advent of self-service machines at racetracks in the 1980s came around about the same time as trifectas, and some superfectas, jackpot wagers as they were called back then, came into the fore, and playing a trifecta on a touch screen kind of became a little bit video game, a little bit adding machine to you, and you could learn and structure tickets for the first time, which was different than just scribbling down on paper what I think the combinations may look like. And having that experience as a young kid at Charlestown, and again, the police in West Virginia, you can't get me on this one anymore, but to work on those SAM screens that they had back then and punch each combination and start to see, okay, if I add this horse, it'll cost this much. If I structure it this way, here's how much it'll cost. It was a great learning experience for me, and the trifecta quickly became one of my favorite wagers, and I became one of the favorite kids at the track too, because people standing in line would come over to me and have me punch up their tickets for them, because there was only one trifecta or 2 trifectas a day back then. So the lines would get long. It's like we talk about 10-cent supers now and people getting backed up. You couldn't get to the windows sometime in the trifecta races. And I got used to punching a lot of those tickets and seeing how people were structuring their tickets, and came up with a plan of attack my own. It didn't take long for the trifecta to become my favorite wager, and one that I've really had probably as much big race success with as any. I think back to the 2013 Kentucky Derby when you have a strong opinion on a horse like Orb. I thought Revolutionary was the main closer in the race. You throw an all ball in the middle, you hope to connect on a big price, and you end up cashing out for over $1,000 on a trifecta with the favorite winning. That's kind of the grand tamale, if you will, if you're playing trifectas, is to have an opinion, get a price in there somewhere, and all of a sudden you're taking something that you feel pretty focused about and getting a huge payoff. This is what a trifecta can do for you.
Yeah, and it's a wager that, at least for me, I tend to really only play when I've got a very specific key horse, because I want to be able to really build around that one horse that I'm very confident will win, and then I can sort of start to partition the other portions of the runners into, likely to have a chance to run second, not going to likely run third. So working off of a key horse, I think, is a really good way to do it. It's not 100% necessary, but especially if you're working on any kind of budget, if you're a smaller bankroll player, being able to key a horse on top in a trifecta is going to be able to help you get the coverage you need in the other spots without kind of breaking the bank if you don't have a huge roll to start with.
And you talk about having that top horse, that key horse. And to me, there are two elements you want in a trifecta wager. We talk about when do you play trifectas. I think there's two situations. When you have an opinion and when the field size warrants it. It's a numbers game, folks. And when you're talking about the number of possible combinations, the way we pay out in this game is by all the losing combinations pay the winners. The bigger the field size, the more losing tickets you're going to have. It's just the way that it works. And that's going to get you a better payoff. So you want a large field size, and you need to have an opinion, I think, in order to be playing trifectas. Like we talked about earlier this semester in our exacta segment, you can go back and check out those archives at horseplayernow.com for all of our lessons in night school, not only this year, but going back to previous 8 seasons. The thing that you really have to take a look at is, do you have an opinion, and do you want to avoid boxing horses? Boxing horses means they can run in any order for our newer players, but if you start boxing in trifectas, Brian, the combinations start to add up quickly. If you have a key horse, you can eliminate one of those places with just a variable of 1 when you multiply how much something's going to cost. So having a key horse in a big field, to me, is what it's all about.
Yeah, and I tend to play trifectas when I do play them in really one of two ways. I am either, it is a hyper-specific trifecta with a key horse on top, and I'm only using maybe 3 horses in the second and third spot, where I say, I like this key horse, and I really only like these other few specific horses underneath. The other type of try I'll play is when I have a key horse in a big field, especially if we're talking a big turf field where there's some potential chaos. Get that key horse on top, play it over 3, 4, 5 others, and then put an all ball in that third spot and really try to catch a big price. And I think one of the ways that helps me determine which of those kinds of trifectas I want to play in any given race is you can use the fact that you can see the exacta probables in on your ADW. So you can actually go in and see what the exacta is paying with those combinations that you're using in first and second, because a lot of times there's going to be a lot of similarities between the way those exactas are bet and the way trifectas are bet. So you can get an idea then of kind of what ballpark is this trifecta maybe going to pay, and what kind of horse do I need to get in third to make it pay the right amount. Do I have to get a 50-1 in order to make it pay well? Then you know what, maybe I don't need to play the trifecta in that race. But this is one of those times where you can actually look back to an easier wager, the exacta, and that can help inform your opinion on what kind of reward you might be getting based on the risk you're taking in the trifecta pool.
And trying to get that top key horse is always important. Then the underlings, the underneath horses are what round it out. Now, if you are using an all situation, then you're hoping for the best. You're looking for chaos, but you're not going to go all in both spots. You need to formulate an opinion either in second or third. The kind of horses that can run underneath in a trifecta, the horses who tend to run second a lot or run third a lot, often have kind of a similar profile. They're what we call hangers, horses who are generally in the race, but they don't really have that heart to win, and somebody usually is a little bit more brilliant or a little tougher in the stretch, and you'll see that where a horse maybe has 17 career starts, 1 win, 6 seconds, 4 thirds, 10 times second or third with only 1 victory. That horse is a hanger who just kind of gets a little piece every time, or a deep closer, a horse who's the plotter who passes tired horses at the end. They usually don't get up to win, but they're good horses that can get second or third, and closers are almost invariably a price almost every time. They're not big speed figure horses. They're not sexy. They don't get bet. A deep closer gets let go on the tote board and can be that kind of horse that runs along second or third. You need to find and identify those races or those horses in trifecta races to help you formulate that ticket. Because like Brian said, even if you have a key horse on top, you're still going to need to narrow in one of the other 2 spots or be focused, like he said, like 1 over 3. Now, 1 over 3 horses in a trifecta key is just a $6 wager for $1. Now in this 50-cent era, you can get that kind of bet for $3. So you don't have to spend a lot to go firing at the trifectas. I mean, I talked about being a trifecta bettor as a teenager. I wasn't playing with a huge bankroll back then. But on a good race, I was betting 20 to win. And so instead of taking the same $20 win wager, 2 races a night where they offered the trifecta, I would instead try to not bet my horse to win with the $20, but take 1 over 5 horses, because you had 5 horses who could run second and then 4 left that could possibly run third. It's 20 combinations. And I felt over the long haul, if I hit a couple trifectas, 1 over 5 on the key, I would do better than betting $20 to win on these horses over time. And it's been a good strategy until they reduced the minimums. The $1 minimum for trifectas was kind of the gold standard for a long time. Now it's down to 50 cents, Brian, and you don't quite get the same return. So if you were once playing trifectas to make your day or make your week or be your benchmark wager, I don't think you can do it in this current wagering environment with the 50-cent minimums. The trifectas become more of a grinder's play. It's something that you can use as part of your tools, but I don't think it can be your go-to wager anymore, because that trifecta that used to pay $500 for a buck is paying about $3.25 or so for 50 cents right now. I can't make enough at $3.25. I need those $500 hits to make it a go-to wager. So bet minimums certainly can have an impact on these exotic wagers that we talk about.
Yeah, the lower wagering minimums, 50-cent trifectas, we see it in multi-race wagers, which we'll talk about in the fall semester when we come back as well. But the wagering minimums have really, I think, taken a little bit of that premium off of getting long shots, because it is easier to have them on your ticket with that 50-cent increment. And, when you were talking about what kinds of horses finish in certain spots, one thing that, might seem really simple to some people is something that I actually struggled with for a while. When you see a race that has a lot of pace and you get into that headspace where, okay, this race is going to fall apart, maybe your key horse is going to be something coming from off the speed, but don't forget that by and large, not every speed horse is going to stop. It can get a little bit easy to kind of get in that this is a fall apart race mentality, and then all of a sudden you've got closers in all three spots of your trifectas. By and large, one or two of those speed horses is going to be able to stick around, at least one of them, a lot of times, to be able to hang on. So, try to find, if you are playing against a certain race flow, always take into account the fact that, maybe one of those speed horses might stick around, even if the general race flow says otherwise.
Yeah, go back and look at charts, and your experience will tell you, you find very few races that 1, 2, 3 run around the track, right? A carousel race where the top 3 don't change places the entire way. And by the same token, you see very few races where horses 8th, 9th, 10th early end up 1, 2, 3. There's generally one in that group of the 3 that's not of the same pace style. So that can be a way in looking to construct your tickets. If you've got a closer on top as you think this is the key horse, chances are you only want to have one more closer as one of your keys underneath, and you're going to need to mix the speed horses. That can be a way to find a group of horses, too, to use. Maybe, say you've got the closer to win the race, you keep one of the speed horses in for second, so there might be a race where there's 3 or 4 early speed horses. You use those 3 or 4 as your second horses and then spread out in the third spot. So using race shapes and pace styles can be a very effective way of attacking your trifecta ticket structure when you're trying to figure out which slot these horses go in. A lot of folks will just tell you anybody can run third, but I think there's a specific style to it that plays out a little more often than others. I'm looking for closers and I'm looking for hangers in there who tend to do it more often. We get an extra look at trifecta wagering tonight as we go back in the night school vault here in night school, as we like to do. Darren Zuccalli, you've seen him on TVG from the Meadowlands over the years in various places. Not only a very good harness handicapper, but adept with the thoroughbreds as well. Darren joined us in night school a few years ago to talk about trifecta wagering. We'll listen to his thoughts, and then we'll bring in the first lady of night school, Caton Bredar. She'll talk tries after this.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Strategize, analyze, select. Join Keeneland Select to bet on racing from around the world on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, anytime, anywhere. Featuring the best rewards in racing, free pass performances, live video, race replays, and more. Plus, Keeneland Select invests a portion of its profits back into the sport. Join Keeneland Select today and earn a $150 sign-up bonus at KeenelandSelect.com. Dedicated to the sport and dedicated to the players.
Some folks like to bet on the horses. Some like to bet on the games. Some folks like to bet on their phone, and some like to bet from their suite. So what's your best bet? All of the above. No matter how you like to bet, Remington Park is your best bet yet. With world-class horse racing, OKC's newest casino, and online suite booking now available. Remington Park, it's your best bet yet.
Hey, what's going on? Mikey here, and I'm going to tell you about an offer from my good friends at ExpressBet. Let's be honest. We know you love playing the races, but you can't always make it to the track. Sometimes life just gets in the way of a good bet. Well, what if I told you about a place where you never miss a bet and you start with house money? You'd say I'm crazy, right? Well, not at ExpressBet. Your first $100 are on them. That's right. Sign up with expressbet.com using promo code XBRadio, bet $100, and they'll deposit $100 back into your account the very next day. Hey, plus you could get an extra $25 if you use Express Fund Direct Deposit. You see what I mean? House money for betting the races. It's that easy. Check it out at expressbet.com to learn more. And don't forget to sign up with promo code XBRadio. You're gonna love it. And that's a Mikey guarantee. Must be 18 years or older and 21 years old in certain states to open an account with ExpressBet and reside in a state where such activity is legal. Void where prohibited. National Gambling Support Line 800-522-4700.
Welcome back to the show. Enjoy this classic night school clip from the vault.
Especially if you identify a race where you focused mainly, on one horse that, if you're wheeling one horse up and down first and second, and, in your dollar play or your $2 play, however you play your tries, and you identify, 3 or 4 or 5 horses that you're putting in the third spot, but then there's, let's say that you have a handful of other horses in the race that you would be leaving off the ticket, just take the extra 50 cents, maybe it's only going to cost you $6, $8, and throw the 50 cents at the combination and hedge a little bit, because with a if you're only hedging for a few dollars, it's a worthwhile hedge because the return is going to be so much more, because chances are the horses that you're throwing into the hedge play that you would have left off your main ticket are probably big prices. Otherwise, assuming that you don't just love a couple of 30-to-1 shots in a race, you're probably throwing in, the longer shots in the field. And if that hedge play were to hit, you only have it for 50 cents, and you did put up a little extra money. But given how the schematics of it are going to work and that the bigger prices are going to be on that ticket, it's going to be worth your while because your return on the investment is going to go up drastically.
Set to close out the first semester of Season 9 of Night School with our final visit of this semester from Caton Bredar to talk trifectas. We've talked about situations in which we like to lean on the trifecta pool as part of our wagering arsenal, and which kind of circumstances and field size and what opportunities lead you into the trifecta pools. And Caton, always excited to get your opinion on these topics as well. How often do you play trifectas, and what are the types of scenarios that really lead you into that pool more than others?
Well, to be very honest, I'd say this is the bet of exotic wagers that I make the least or find myself least likely to gravitate to. And maybe that's a combination of my own individual style, which is that I just like to focus in on finding a one key horse at a good price. And, sometimes those are the types of horses that sure could be used in trifectas and you would make more money, but I'm happy to just be able to have found that horse and cash bets. I don't need to, go all in from that perspective, but I think that's an important ingredient. I think trifectas are very hard to hit. In smaller fields, I might actually, if I'm at the track and I find that a horse I absolutely loved becomes a very, very short price, and the only other logical horse I see is also a short price, then I might consider betting a trifecta just because it's an opportunity to play the race where otherwise I might not have that opportunity. If I just really don't feel that you can bet to win on the horse that you like because the odds are so low, and you can't even make any money in exactas because the size of the field is so short, then that would be an opportunity where I might look to trifectas to maximize that opportunity. In those cases, you have to be precise, though. You have to insist that your top choice wins the race, Or maybe you have two horses that you like and you need to key them in first and second, or perhaps first and third, depending on the size of your bankroll and what the odds are on some of the other horses. But the smaller the field, and I know that this has already been discussed to a certain degree, you really, the smaller the field is, the more specific you're going to have to be if you're going to make any money with a trifecta. Sure. So, and that might be part of why I probably don't play them as much as I would lean toward whether it's multi-race wagers or, a daily double, or passing the race, unless I could play an exactas. And again, those usually, if those horses are very short prices, then the exactas aren't very attractive either. So for me, and I also would add that I think, because math is not my strong suit, and there's a lot of us that are out there. I'm just sort of the more artistic bent, but I think that to be successful playing trifectas over time, if you play them a lot, you do have to be a little bit more mathematically oriented, because you can't check the estimated payoffs the way you can exactas, for example, or even daily doubles. So I think it just becomes a little bit trickier to gauge what the potential risk reward is, and you really have to rely on some of your math skills. So maybe that's part of the reason why I tend to not play them as often as I play other types of wagers.
There's a look here at trifecta betting, and this is going to wrap up our first semester here, season 9 of Night School. We're going to be back on August 27th to kick off our second semester. On August 27th, we'll be tackling 2-year-old handicapping right in the middle of the Saratoga and Del Mar meets. On behalf of Jeremy Plonk, Caton Bredar, I'm Brian W. Spencer, thanking you for listening to season 9 of Night School. We'll look forward to getting back with you again. Semester 2 starts August 27th. Good night.
Next on FAQ 60, post position. A post position can be a major boon or obstacle for a runner, especially in extremes. The far inside and outside posts can be problematic for most horses. The rail can be confining and claustrophobic, while the far outside post often leads to horses breaking outward or drifting out into open space. Other key elements of post position include which portion of the track may be faster or slower, and where you're positioned in the starting gate versus your rivals. Breaking alongside a professional and fast racehorse is a big plus. Breaking next to a horse who drifts or is an erratic gate breaker can be a landmine that you can't avoid. This FAQ 60 is brought to you by AQHA Racing and Horse Player Now.
Enjoyed tonight's episode? Check out hundreds of past archives at horseplayernow.com.